Good morning. Hello. Happy Thursday. Welcome to SJU on Fandom Entertainment. I am Danielle Radford. Hello. Nice to see you. I have got Spencer. I have got Riley. I have got Dan. Good morning, and we've got a bunch of stories. We're going to talk about some Lord and Miller. We are going to get into some Benioff and Weiss Netflix news. We're going to talk about Machete because he's amazing. But first, for this Lord and Miller, hype up Sony Marvel TV shows via Deadline. Chris Miller of super duo Lord and Miller talked to reporters at the TCA, that's the Television Critics Association, press tour this week, giving the first hints of the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse producers' upcoming Sony Marvel TV Universe that will result from their recent nine-figure, that a lot of zeros, 5-year overall television deal with Sony Pictures TV. 9 figures.
Oh my God.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Wow.
Do they have to then do the work, or can they just take the money and be like, I don't know, put a Spider-Man in a robot suit?
It's just 3 hours of like, action figures going, hey, Lord, hey, Miller, what are you going to do with your money?
It'll be $100 million.
Some people have done worse with more.
Yeah.
That is a very, very true statement. So Miller told Deadline, we are developing a handful of live action shows using Sony's Marvel characters, of which there are like 900 characters. We're figuring out a way to develop the shows so that each of their own unique experience, but are also related. So a Spider-Verse,
if you will.
Right? It's exciting to me. I'm really interested to see. Are there any characters that you would particularly want to see in this?
Spider-Gwen.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah, give me a Spider-Gwen show. You can do whatever you want with anybody else. Just give me a Spider-Gwen show, and I'm fine.
Yeah, I think for me it's probably a Japanese Spider-Man, Takuya. I think he doesn't even need to be Spider-Man, just pre-Spider-Bite. It's just like a guy who loves dirt bikes.
Yeah. I do want to see Leopardon, though.
Sure. But maybe under the control of his mentor from Planet Spider, not Takuya.
Whole Planet Spider show.
Yeah. Like Krypton, but it's on Planet Spider.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be incredible.
If y'all have not seen Japanese Spider-Man, there was an honest trailer. I believe you can find clips of it on YouTube.
Everything you need to know is right there in the trailer.
It is well worth your time.
You can also see every episode under like a Creative Commons license somewhere. Like you
Archive.org.
Archive.org.
It is there, rights free for the watching.
Yeah. Preserve art, you guys. keep art alive. So Miller wouldn't confirm the stories were going to be drawn from the Spider-Man canon, though given that's the one big Marvel property Sony still has control of, they would presumably need to be at least somewhat connected to or originated from Spider-Man connected lore. They've been talking to a lot of people for trying to do something not like anything else on television, he says.
What does that even mean, though? What are we not seeing on TV now that we can't?
900 characters at the same time.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, we've got, I mean, quality aside, we're gonna get to that later, but like cinematically, like Game of Thrones got to like this cinematic level by the end of it. We got all these shows that are like multi-million-dollar budgets into a single episode. Like, what are we not seeing?
We have the Masked Singer. We have everything.
Yeah. We even have in the superhero realm, we have the Arrowverse, which is already combining several TV shows into a yearly crossover, big combining interlocking event. Yeah, I agree.
We even had Powerless, where we had like what happens to the schlubs who are hanging out in the superhero universe. Like, we've like got all this stuff happening.
But what if we're limiting ourselves too much to just the superhero world, and they're literally doing every Sony property? So it is Spider-Man, and then he'll run into like Chris Pratt from Passengers. Like they can bring any character from any Sony movie at any time.
Okay, fair.
I like that idea.
Yeah, that's pretty great. It'll be a little while before it all comes together and is on the air, he said. I just wanted to say this, but I think it's going to be something really special. He added with a literal wink.
Oh, yeah.
Wink. I think it's going to be something really special.
I think he's taking the money and running. I think you're right. I think you're all going to be real impressed with what we do. Yoink.
It's like The Amazing Race, but they're trying to find the missing $100 million that Lord and Miller took.
It'll be on a private island somewhere where they'll just, Big Brother, like, stream themselves reading Spider-Man scripts.
Yep. It's just a billboard over the Skywalker Ranch that's just like them like giving the middle finger to the ranch. And they're just going to pay for it for the rest of history.
So what's great is that because they have this deal with Sony in April, it does mean they still get to do their own projects. They also get to supervise other writers' projects for network, cable, and streaming platforms. They get everything and lose nothing.
Yeah.
Essentially, 9 figures. So where and how do you think something like this would be released?
Well, nowadays it's. I think Sony's one of the few studios that has yet to announce their own exclusive streaming platform, right? Yeah. So,
Probably.
but obviously the Spider-Verse film did well. I think it'll be one of those movies that potentially is going to do much better at the box office on its second film than it did on its first film, even though it did fine the first time, but it was so acclaimed and so loved. I think the second one would be the one that breaks through. So obviously I'm sure there's interest in developing that, spin-offs of that. And then it sounds like maybe they're interested in building some television MCU Daredevil-esque Defenders-type universe for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Which could be interesting, but it's a lot of Spider-Man, and it locks them up for a long time.
Yeah.
I think what I don't understand is, like you said, the question is, where is this going to end up? And Sony doesn't really have a distribution anything like a platform. They make TV shows for other people. Like they made Breaking Bad. That's like a Sony TV production that was aired on FX. It's been a while. AMC. So like they could just seed the whole world with Spider-Man shows. Like
Everyone gets a
Netflix
Spider-Man
gets
show.
one.
Cast a web, you might say.
One might say shoot a web out and just spread Spider-Man all over the town.
Wasn't Crackle Sony's?
Crackle was their thing.
Yeah.
Right? Which is not.
Finally, Crackle rises from the ashes.
Is Crackle still cracking?
Crackle is now the property of, and I shit you not, Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
They bought Crackle.
Chicken Soup for the Soul by Crackle.
That is like a Scheinhardt Wig Company level of corporate acquisitions. I think you might be right. I think like this is going to be a thing where like they're probably going to open themselves up to a bidding war for who's going to want to have this on their service. Like I think a lot of people are going to be like, we want as much as like it's not going to go to Disney obviously. Maybe it might go to Disney. Who knows? Like they might be working with their Marvel Disney Plus thing if they want to make it MCU related, which we don't know if that's going to be the case. I kind of hope it's not, but I do think that like that could be a big thing of like yes, please create a whole other section of shows for us so that we can then put on our services like Hulu or whatever. But
but that's I think that's the issue though with the increased control from only a few different parties is like it is still Sony, which is quote unquote the competition, and so is Hulu because it's owned by Disney. They're gonna be like, well, we don't want to buy a show from Sony, and then Universal's gonna have their own streaming platform, and HBO now is also part of Warner Brothers' overall strategy. So if they go to HBO, is Warner Brothers gonna be like, well, we don't want to buy a competing show from a different studio?
Yeah.
So like that's the problem. Is like
there's not many
now
buyers.
that all the platforms are now also connected to the corporate strategies of every parent company.
Yeah.
I worry that they're going to be viewing shows not as content but as competition,
right?
Which is going to potentially not be great because then where do you go? It just closes the possibilities.
I think Disney and Marvel are the only real chance they have at cooperation in that regard because of the Disney Marvel cooperation already with Spider-Man, which has had some issues already, like pushing to put the trailer out before like when it spoiled the end game a little bit. But I do think that like that's like in my mind it's not a done deal, but I can see that possibly being
the one buyer I can see in my head is Viacom, who owns like MTV and Comedy Central and like just the last few like cable channels around that aren't part of some other conglomerate.
See, I wonder if this might be the beginnings of we might hear about a Sony streaming something or Sony partnership or Sony partnership with someone, and this is like the beginning of those seeds being sown. I would not surprise me if in the next 6 months we hear Sony has partnered with this person to be a part of their service, and they'll be also developing content, and that's where you can exclusively find Sony properties.
I mean, there's been rumors for like a decade that Sony was going to, the movie division of Sony, movies and television, was going to be acquired by somebody.
Oh God, what if this is like a PS4 exclusive? Sorry, I made a face.
That was popping in my head when he was saying that.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably got a bigger user base than Crackle. I don't know.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that would make sense with his, like, it's going to be something you've never seen before. If they did have something of this caliber on a
your PlayStation
service, that would be massive.
But this does say on television. Like I know that that's still going to be on your TVs technically, but I don't know. Who knows what's going to be the...
Maybe it could be that perhaps I'm overestimating the amount of competition, and somebody's gonna be like, "Well, sure, we'll take a Lord and Miller series."
Apple can buy it.
Apple needs
with
a
Sony,
big. They need a something because right now they got not much.
Yeah.
They got names, which is great. Names are great,
Gotta
but
start
everyone
making some
else
stuff.
is like rolling out. I mean, Disney just rolled out 18 MCU connected shows that are going to be vital storytelling things. And oh, by the way, it's like what, $8 a month?
Yeah.
Which is like,
It's like it's the same price as Hulu was already, basically.
yeah. So Apple definitely does need a big splashy moneymaker. But yeah, I don't know. It's such a new way of everything working that I think this is going to be a good test of like, does everyone play ball and say like we are still going to double down and buy good content, or are they going to say like, no, we are going to make our content?
Yeah.
Get away from here, other content.
I could see Netflix or Amazon being a potential home for something like this too. I mean, Netflix doesn't mention these things. That's why I think they're going to be, if they're not launching their own service, I think we're going to see a bidding war of someone who's going to want this because it's going to be such a massive profitable property that, say that 3 times fast. But I think that, yeah, I could see Netflix being like, yeah, well, we axed all of our Disney Marvel shows, so now we'll take over these Marvel shows instead.
Right.
Kind of like, we'll still have Marvel, and we'll.
We'll still be developing our own stuff.
But the problem with Netflix is they are consistently axing shows that are from other studios,
Right. True.
and saying
It's
we
true.
want to either produce our own content or make our own stuff. We don't want stuff from others. So that's the question: is are they going to continue that strategy? And it really can't be over said or overestimated how much of a sea change is going on right now.
Yeah.
Like, the fundamentals of almost every single way that business is done in this town, it's changing completely. So it is a brave new world out there.
Yeah, when we talk about the streaming wars, it's not just where will you throw your money. It is also things like how do studios now work with each other when, like you said, everything is competition, including like the means of distributing it on these platforms. So big Spider-Verse fans here, I think we all are.
Yeah. Sure.
Would you want to see connections to the Spider-Verse in this?
I wouldn't want it to be connected to the animated films. I want those to kind of be their own thing.
Yeah.
I'm of the guard where I don't need my TV shows to be connected to their film properties. Like I think that the Arrowverse works better because it's not trying to be DC.
Oh, I agree.
And I think that like it's good for them both to be their own separate things. I also think that like I get so frustrated as a fan of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Netflix shows where it was like we're never like quite sure, does this match up with the MCU, doesn't it? And it was always like I would just know it's not and not have to worry about trying to figure out like how these things line up. Because I want them to be able to tell their own stories. And the problem with matching things up to a film universe is then your timetable is always kind of handcuffed by what the films are doing. And a great example, like it worked great for the first season of S.H.I.E.L.D. where they actually like had that huge reveal at the end of the season when the Captain America Winter Soldier like twist happened. But I think that like it then became a problem later on in the show where after the snap, you're like, okay, so do all of our shows have half their population disappear? Like when they were like, no, we're just not going to do that anymore. So I think that like it's better just to be like, we're not going to be beholden to that to begin with.
Yeah, I feel like Disney and Marvel particularly kind of have this whole interlocking cinematic TV universe thing on lock.
Yeah.
And I don't know how smart trying to replicate that strategy would be, particularly when it is also interlocked into, at least cinematically, with the live action Spider-Man with the MCU. But yeah, I would much rather they cultivate some sort of universe, however they want to, different shows, different networks, who knows, but but also at the risk of realizing that everyone else is trying to do this too. So if you make too many shows that are all interconnected and you can only you have to watch all of them, that there are going to be some people that say that I'm going to watch none of them.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to watch the Silver Sable show.
I'm watching this, I'm watching this, I'm watching this, I'm watching this. So I think there's a great reward if you do it correctly, but you also run the risk of the all or nothing mentality. People just saying like, well, I can't watch all of them, so I'm not going to watch any of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there are
want,
definitely
like,
some characters on this that would be a bridge too far. Sir?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I want them to do like an anthology series where it's like each episode is a different verse spider.
Yeah.
It's a different versus spider. So
I'd be
it's
into
like,
that.
this week it's Spider-Man Noir. This week it's whatever, and you go through 900 episodes of all the different Spider-Man.
There are a lot. If you read the Spider-Verse comic, there are so many.
Or maybe this is the opportunity to sort of do the anti-defenders and actually finally figure out how to do the Sinister Six, which the movies have been attempting to do, or have attempted at least with the Andrew Garfield series to do without much success, but figure out, okay, this is where we can build out our villain universe, building up to a big whatever event so that you can develop them individually.
Can they do
kind
a
of like
Venom?
what the Arrowverse did. What?
Can they do a Venom? Can we have Lord and Miller's Venom?
I imagine they could do a version of a Venom.
They could do a Venom version.
Yeah, there are a bunch of them. Them symbiotes, they get everywhere.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there used to be a hesitance, and even like in recent years, to have your TV property and movie properties doing the same characters. But I feel like largely that's starting to get abandoned a little bit. Like even with like the DC TV series, like bringing in Batwoman and conceivably having Batman as part of this big crossover they're doing. I think that's a thing. Like even having Superman appear on Supergirl was like a big breaking of that wall of like we're not going to have any of the movie stuff in the show. Like when they did Suicide Squad on Arrow back in like its first or second season, the only like reference to Harley Quinn was like she was behind a locked door and like don't mess with her. We don't deal with her. And like they killed off their Amanda Waller because of the movie coming out. And I don't think they're doing as much of that anymore. Now I feel like they're a little bit more open to it. Like case in point of like Disney putting out a live action musical of Little Mermaid this fall when they're already making a live action movie musical.
Please be the roller skates. Please be the roller skates. Please be the roller skates.
I'm quickly see if somewhere going, no roller skates, no roller skates, no roller skates.
They're on Heelys.
Okay.
They are on Heelys.
No.
Yes, in the Little Mermaid. I'm sorry, I keep bringing this up. I apologize. In the Little
brought it
Mermaid
up to be fair to
Broadway
you.
musical, they're on Heelys.
Yes, they are.
It's so great. I'm sorry. It's my favorite thing.
Are
in the
they on
world.
soap shoes too, where they do little grinds? Do you guys have those? I don't remember soaps.
I had them, yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. So
Did I ever use them? No, sure didn't. Sure got scared every
I
time
fell down
tried
some
to.
stairs. Yeah.
Yeah. I fell down one
cool.
flight and was never again.
Well, on top of that, all of their spidering, I mentioned earlier, they're still able to do other stuff. So the rather ridiculously busy Lord and Miller also just signed a first look deal with Universal Pictures, as announced by the Hollywood Reporter last week. I know, they have all of the money. With the Universal Pact, Lord and Miller will develop features in both comedy and drama based on original content as well as existing IP. And so existing IP could be things like Jurassic Park and Jurassic World, The Fast and the Furious, Despicable Me and Minions, Bourne, Universal Monsters, The Mummy series, American Pie, Meet the Parents, The Purge, Mamma Mia, just a lot of stuff.
Wait, I would love to see Lord and Miller's Mamma Mia.
I want to see it so bad. So yeah, now they are able to, they've also, beyond the Sony TV and Universal deals, they have several other projects in various stages of development, including an adaptation of the Andy Weir novel Artemis at Fox and the live-action tentpole The Last Human for Sony. Both the pair will direct. First of all, how tired are they?
How many hours are in the day?
I know, right?
That's insane.
crazy. That's crazy.
That is
At what
a
point-
recipe for burnout.
At what point is their presence more of a figurehead position and less of like a hands-on position? Like
It would
what,
have to be.
Like they might be doing like approvals of scripts and stuff like that, but it's got to be them like picking people to take over projects for them and like letting them run the project, right? Like can't just be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, they got to be in Feige mode
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
yeah.
Although Feige is really though still centrally committed to one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's overseeing multiple projects simultaneously, but his job is I am overseeing the Marvel Cinematic Universe, whereas this is like I'm doing this here, I'm doing this here, I'm doing
Two
this
different
here, I'm
companies,
doing this
yeah.
here, I'm doing
Yeah.
this here. That's a lot. That's a lot to take on. It really is. I mean, they're both doing very well for themselves, and I love to see people who I think are very talented and whose work I enjoy getting a lot of work, but that is a lot.
Yeah.
Of work.
Yeah, it seems a little desperate on part of Sony and Universal. I mean, it's admirable and it's desperate because they're like, well, look, we don't know what we're doing. Let's give all of the money to two people who seem like they know what they're doing and hope they can figure it out with just all of our stuff. Just make something happen, please.
Yeah, just dropping off like the toy box. It's
Yeah.
like, here, play with these toys, see what you can make happen with them.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
It's just how much email do they have?
I know.
You know, like how many different people are like, I have to be. No, I'm not gonna say that. How many different people are like, you have to call me back as soon as I call you because like I'm your boss on this thing.
Yeah.
You know, how many high priority things are they dealing with throughout their day?
Yeah, but I'm wondering if they're becoming that person. Like they're like if they're essentially making themselves into almost like a studio head, but rather than working for a studio, they're working for their media empire they're creating with all these other like inputs coming into them.
Right.
Like their emails must be crazy. But their assistants' emails have got to be all. I feel like their assistant probably is reading these same things we're reading and just like flop sweating.
They're at a point now where they have multiple. They have one
they have
assistant for
teams.
each individual job, and then they have a personal assistant that'll get their pick up the
coffee,
dog and get it washed and all that. But
Wash the dog. Yeah.
It is a lot. It reminds me a little bit of 10 years ago when J.J. Abrams and Damon Lindelof and Roberta Orci and Alex Kurtzman were attached to literally every single project in town.
And that went great.
Well,
Everyone loved everything, and no one was
And
disappointed.
that's why we have so many Star Trek films.
that's all I'll say. This method has been tried before. It will be tried again. But I would hate to see them get overextended and then it starts to be a blowback on.
Yeah, it dilutes the brand, especially. Well, since they do have the Universal franchise, are there any in particular, aside from doing Mamma Mia, that you would want to see them do?
Just mash them all together. I mean, the Fast and Furious Jurassic Park Fast and Furious mashup is the one that they need to tackle first and foremost.
I agree.
So dinosaurs, or Dom driving his car down a dinosaur. I need to see that.
Live action or animated?
No, live action.
Okay.
Well, okay, maybe the dinosaurs can be like Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
I know they were trying to launch the Dark Universe series previously. I think that I would rather see a Lord Miller type take on the Universal monsters. I'd like to see a little bit more self-aware, fun monster franchise as opposed to trying to be like this weird, dark, edgy franchise.
No one's scared of a mummy anymore.
No, I want to see the Mummy and Shaw. I want to see Hobbs meets Frankenstein. Like at this point, it's just
and Pitch Perfect is also
crazy.
not on this list. So Pitch Perfect is also a Universal franchise. So let's get the Mummy and Shaw, and there's a riff off somewhere in the middle of it. Like that's going to be.
Is Fast and the Furious just a new Scooby Gang where we just put this into anything?
Why can't they be? Why can't every Fast and the Furious movie be a new crossover where they get dropped on some island somewhere? And
I would watch it. Are you
The
kidding me?
Harlem
That'd be amazing.
Globetrotters show up.
Especially how we split them into two franchises.
Oh man, it's Chucky.
I mean, come on.
I want Vin Diesel and Letty and Michelle Rodriguez to give birth to a minion.
And it's like the pacifier, but they're taking care of minions.
Yes. Oh my God.
At this point, come on.
So, is there any other original content you'd like to see from them? I know when I interviewed them, they hinted, and this was way back when I was doing the Spider-Verse junket, they did hint at a possibility of them bringing back Clone High or doing something with that.
Please do. I mean, that's where they all began, and that's where my love for them began. And they can do Clone High just with like Teen Chucky and Teen Teen Blue from Jurassic World. I don't know. It seems like an idea they can make work.
They can deal with the monsters.
Yeah. So yes, if you're writing them a blank check, they still love that show. I think that there's a cult around that show still. So yes.
Yeah, I feel like every time we talk about them, someone in the comments brings them up, or every time we have like a chance to interview them, everyone is like Clone High, Clone High, Clone High. It's like, well, we can't just talk Clone High at the Spider-Man junket, but I will try my hardest.
Yeah,
doing the Lord's work.
Doing a lot.
They could do the Clone High saga with Spider-Man. They could bring in all the various
Clones.
Yeah.
Yes.
There we go. Aw, poor Ben Reilly.
Yeah, I was gonna say Ben Reilly's in there. Mixing it up.
So yeah, we're never going to see their version of Solo. But is it amazing how much they have done since they were fired, and how isn't it interesting to see like how much success they had before with the Lego Movie and then after? We were talking about this earlier. Yeah, I want to see the Lord and Miller cut.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, hindsight obviously being what it is, but how much different and worse could it have been than what happened? As far from a financial standpoint, as far as Disney is concerned, Solo was pretty much a worst case scenario.
Yeah, it reshaped their entire plan for how they were going to release Star Wars because of how that movie turned out. Which I liked the movie a lot, but as far as the reception was concerned, they had to abandon their whole plan of doing these like prequel movies.
It was a shrug heard around the galaxy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean,
that's how he got his name.
I just we were talking before. Like I'm so much more interested in the Lord and Miller cut than I am the Snyder cut because I feel
blasphemer. Slay the blasphemer.
Thank you for all of our inboxes now, letting us know what we need to tell you later.
I feel like I know roughly at least the shape of what the Snyder Cut of Justice League would be.
Do you know the face of God?
But I have no idea what Lord Miller did on Solo.
I like to see their script.
I want to see it. I want to see, like, was it a disaster? Was it just a comedy? And they just like, we don't want to make a comedy, but maybe the comedy would have been a better angle. I don't know. I'm less excited in the sort of kind of known quantity over here, and much more interested in the unknown whatever is over here.
Yeah, I'd like to know what of the movie we saw was directly from them, and like what was added in later. Like, I think almost all the Phoebe Waller-Bridge stuff feels like it was straight out of their ideology. But I could be wrong. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for watching SJU on Fandom Entertainment. Make sure that you like and subscribe. We've got some more topics we're going to talk about later. Oh, and I forgot to mention, they're doing that thing again where construction just happens around us and there's nothing we can do. Occasionally, a drill bit will come through a wall.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know.
We have an agreement.
We have an agreement.
We struck
but-
an accord, but it ends at 11:45.
Yeah. So just so you know, if the booming and banging starts happening, that is our cue to get the F out of here. But don't be alarmed. There is some great stuff on Fandom.com. We released Fandom Uncovered, the Dungeons and Dragons. It features Critical Role, Joe
good.
Manganiello,
So
among
good.
others. A ton of amazing D&D fans. Make sure you watch that and share it. We're really proud of it. It came out really well, and we're so happy that so many of you who do enjoy D&D have reached out to us and told us how much seeing the documentary meant for you.
Yeah, the comments have been really. I was going through them a little bit yesterday, and it's great to see people not only in the video sharing what something like D&D means to them, but in the comments saying how much sharing their stories. And I think that's good. It's a very toxic atmosphere sometimes. A lot.
Yeah.
And it's great to see people just kind of celebrating something without that sort of seamy other side that is unfortunately progressively encroaching more and more.
Yeah, into every single fandom.
I think that's the joy of D&D, is that
yes.
D&D is a concept of collective storytelling, and so it's a thing of shared experiences. And so I think the majority of D&D fans really come to it from a really cool place. Like, I think I'm not gonna say there's not toxic fans, because there isn't every single thing.
Yeah.
But I think that as someone who's like diehard D&D player, like I find that our community, like I watched that video on Tuesday. I was here and then I left and that video dropped, and like I was like, even though I wasn't even here, I'm like still gonna spend more of my time with Screen Junkies today, and it was so good. Like I was texting Joe Starr, just like I love this thing. It's so good. So yeah, I was like nerding out over it.
Yeah, I'm like a huge D&D player, and it parts of it got my little stone heart. So make sure that you go and you watch that. Story number 2, speaking of Netflix has stricken a deal with Game of Thrones showrunners. This is via Deadline. Game of Thrones creators David Benioff and D.B. Weiss
The other D&D.
the other D&D have signed an exclusive deal with Netflix. No one is confirming numbers, but sources tell Deadline the deal is now in the nine-figure range, like some other mega deals signed by show creators like Shonda Rhimes and Ryan Murphy, each of whom have also moved to Netflix. Deadline says they hear 5 years and worth as much as $300 million.
Wow.
$300 million. Netflix has confirmed they secured the deal, and the respective parties put out their initial statements celebrating the agreement. Of course they celebrate.
Yeah.
It's just them popping bottles and like shaking champagne all over themselves.
And like Lord and Miller, they could easily take the money and run. We've seen what happened in the past with them already.
Well, it'll figure itself out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, they earned it. They created and wrote and designed all the characters for Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
All by themselves?
Yeah, all from
And
their own brains.
They brought their own vision to life in that show, and they've done it time and time again. So let's give them the GDP of a small country.
Yeah.
Dan's
see no
making a
problem.
face.
I mean, yeah.
Give me that face, Dan.
I have been a bit defensive of the last the season of Game of Thrones to a degree, but
That's how I feel. That's exactly how I feel.
That's a lot of money for. I agree. Like D.B. Weiss' Game of Thrones was sort of his first huge thing, and then David Benioff. If you just look, like there have been some amazing things that he was involved with, like 25th Hour, which is a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
Good movie.
But also some things like Troy and X-Men Origins Wolverine that were maybe not so great. And I know that there's a studio process, but it's like it feels like this feels like a deal that banking on the reputation of Game of Thrones a year ago. Whereas now I think it's a little more muddy as far as like, it was not a perfect, oh my goodness, by far from a perfect last season. And I think you do have to take that into account. And the whole Confederate thing, which is like,
if this deal makes that not happen even more, I'm okay with this deal happening.
Yeah. So I mean, I think at this point, you said Lord and Miller and Benioff and Weiss, it's like everyone is so desperate at these places to make a big splash that they're just paying ridiculous amounts of money just to be seen as huge players and signing these names. Like, look at who we have. We're doing great. Even though Netflix just recently had some news that wasn't so great. Yeah,
which is also like exactly counterintuitive because, like you just said, Game of Thrones was kind of like the first big break for either of these guys. Like Benioff does Hatch of Things, but Weiss was like his first big break. So like, it's weird how they never look at it from that point of view of like, let's take these like younger, fresh talent who have this interesting thing for us and give them some money to work on something, like, which is what HBO did with Game of Thrones. Like they developed this book series that had a following but wasn't like mainstream famous, and these guys who had like a vision for how to tell it and had agreed with the author to make the show and made this really show that blew them up and like changed HBO's entire profit margin and everything. But this is like the exact opposite of that. This is like instead of bringing in new, hungry, fresh talent that have interesting stories to tell, we're like, you did okay. Let's see what happens next. That's the exact opposite lesson you'll learn from Game of Thrones.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean that's. I'm sure we rewind 10 years ago. I mean, if Game of Thrones had been bigger, people would be like, "Who are these guys? You're giving it to these guys?
Yeah.
Where are those guys? Where are those guys? What's the
Yeah, it's like what's happening with Amazon right now, and people like don't know what to do with the showrunners of the new Lord of the Rings series because they have like nothing huge under their belt. But it's like maybe that's the better way to go with it.
That's what you need.
The staff is strong, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also have several obligations they intend to fulfill. They are creating, writing, and producing one of the next Star Trek trilogies, which are Star Wars trilogies, which we know about. They wrote a Kurt Cobain project for Universal and are poised to adapt the Prison Break tale Dirty White Boys for Fox and Disney, so they are also everywhere. What kind of stuff do you think would make them successful on the platform that they could develop?
I think kind of like I said about Lord and Miller, I think I'd rather it be less of like them writing and creating shows themselves and more them seeking out talent that have stories to tell and like championing those talents.
Right.
Yeah, this is a little tougher for me because Lord and Miller, I know their voice.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I've seen enough of their work to be like, I know what their voice is. Like Benioff and Weiss, I don't know what their voice is because so much of it is filtered through Game of Thrones and George R. R. Martin, and then wrapping up that story, and who knows what part of that was them, what part of that was this pre-planned part of it. So it's harder to be like, oh, they'd be great at this because I don't really know what their wheelhouse is.
Well, I think that they have like a very rare talent, which is like they can handle epic. They can keep. Granted, they all came crashing down at the end, but they can keep like 7 plates spinning, both from a storytelling perspective and like from people shooting the same show all around the world and coordinating and managing that with like heavy VFX and a cast of 100 people. Like that's not an easy thing to do, and like they're very few people who have anything like that on their resume that can handle it. So if they care enough, that's great. Like they give them another meaty, bookshelf worth of a fantasy series or
something
a
sci-fi
series, something that's been done, that's something with an ending, and let them like break it down and actually figure out how to get it done.
Do we think that this affects the Star Wars trilogy at all? It sounds like they're obviously
They'll
still
do that
doing
at lunch. It's fine.
You just knock one of those out. Those are easy. Star Wars is so easy. Yeah. Anyone can do it.
Beyond the rise
except for Lord and Miller.
Yes, that's true. Beyond Rise of Skywalker, I remain unconvinced that any previously announced Star Wars project is actually a reality.
Yeah, I think we're kind of seeing a situation kind of like early Marvel, where they are bringing in lots of writers and developers like to bring up an idea, and then we may get one Guardians of the Galaxy out of it. We might not get anything else out of that pack of people. Or we may get all of it. Who knows? But.
Yep. All right. Rolling into story number 3. This might be my favorite of any Ryan title. Machete saves the Machete Day via CNN. Danny Trejo, and this is no lie, this happened, literally saved a baby's life on Wednesday. The actor jumped into action after witnessing two vehicles crash, causing one to roll over. The overturned vehicle that was sitting on its roof still had a baby strapped into the car seat inside. Trejo said he tried crawling in through a broken window, but couldn't get the seatbelt unhooked. With the help of another bystander, they were able to free the child. The only thing that saved the little kid was his car seat, Trejo told a photographer on the scene. Another Ryan note, very humble flex. I agree.
The car seat's the real hero.
I was just there. The Los Angeles Fire Department told CNN affiliate KABC that 3 people were taken to the hospital. Their injuries were not life-threatening. Trejo said, everything good that has happened to me has happened as a direct result of helping someone else. Everything. Okay, so Danny Trejo is just awesome. We don't really have any questions other than Danny Trejo is awesome.
Yeah.
There's not really anything more to say about that. I do want to do, it was Joe's idea, and I think it's a fantastic idea. We're going to try to do 1 minute of Danny Trejo appreciation, and that starts now. Say good things about Danny Trejo. Spencer.
Do I get a minute to myself?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then
You're burning it now.
Danny Trejo famously said that movies need 4 things: blades, babes, bullets, and blood. And I'm going to add babies to that list.
Riley.
I think that Trejo has this unique ability to both play intimidating, tough action star, but to often be soft and hilarious at the same time, which is why he's so funny when he has these amazing takes and these humorous like twists on a line, and why he was able to do like good roles like Breacher on the DC Universe TV show. So whatever. Yeah.
That's fantastic. We're halfway through. Dan.
Danny Trejo is proof that you don't have to be defined by the early part of your life, that you're able to make a second and even a third act and really build a cult for yourself just based on taking your mistakes into account and making your own new life.
That's amazing. 10 seconds less. Trejo's tacos are amazing. He has a great donut shop. He donates and he does a lot of stuff good around town. And everyone I know who's ever met him has said that he is the nicest guy in the whole wide world. And we did it.
Yeah.
We did it. 1 full minute of
Trejo
Trejo
appreciation
love.
minute.
I am an old person, so I watch the news every night. So I saw this last night on the news, and my favorite thing was like, they're like, actor Danny Trejo saved a life, and it cuts to an interview, and he's just hanging there, no shirt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shirtless, and just yeah, man, I was just hanging out over there. And it's just like he was talking about a dog he saw on the street that day. It's like he tells this is just like, yeah, man, it's just part of my day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't you guys do it? That's what I love is like his attitude of like, I just did what anyone else would do, and he's not.
Yeah. I like to think when called upon that we would all throw our shirts off and crawl into a broken car window.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was looking at this. He's 75.
75.
Yeah.
He has. I looked this up. He's been in 8 movies so far this year. He has 7 more movies. On the way this year. That's not including voice work and television work, which he's also doing. Like he's constantly working. I was reading a little bit more about him this morning, and it's just like you like to see those stories of somebody who has just been through it. He's done everything you could possibly do in this life, good and bad, and has come through the other side with just a bright outlook and a positive outlook, and just wanting to work and. It's good to see that.
Yeah, and he does give back. He gives back to the community a whole bunch, which is like, people say that, but it's always nice to kind of see it in practice.
This has been longer than a minute.
No, we have to keep talking about Danny Trejo. No, this is an addendum.
This is the after show.
These are also facts.
Yeah.
We're just doing Danny Trejo facts.
Yeah. He saved a baby. He can get 2 minutes.
Yeah. Come on, Spencer. We just talked about Benioff and Weiss for like 15 minutes. We give Danny Trejo.
Have they saved any babies? I don't think so.
The car seat did all the work, according to Danny Trejo. I don't know. There was also
the car seat is the George R.R. Martin of this scenario.
All right. So, lastly, we have got a Carnival Row interview. My entire San Diego Comic-Con was Carnival Row.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go to see the activations, and there were some articles up on Fandom.com you can check out that I wrote quick and dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And so I also got to interview, and this is via Fandom. I got to speak to the stars of Amazon Prime's upcoming Carnival Row, Orlando Bloom and Cara Delevingne, about what to expect. I did it. I said her name. What to expect in the new fantasy series on August 30th, which weaves together mythical creatures, humans, and a murder mystery.
I thought you were going to say Connie's.
and Carnies.
Strangely not.
No?
Strangely not. I would say without
good, then I'm in.
Spoiler alert, less Carnies at Carnival Row. You think there would be?
Less Carnies and Carnival
By the
Row.
way, this show is made for me specifically, so I hope you guys enjoy it too, but it's definitely being created just for my eyeballs. All right?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
They're getting very targeted.
They are very targeted.
Very
Yeah,
specific.
the future of TV making is finding each individual audience member and finding a show that's just for them.
That's what happens when you order exclusively through one platform. Now they know how to make everyone's favorite shows. So we are going to go ahead and cut to that interview, and then we will see you all tomorrow. So check that out. Bye.
My name is Philo, and I was born an orphan of the Burg.
For generations, we thrived peacefully in a land called Tirnanock.
My character, I play Vignette Stomos. I think Carnival Row is kind of a mishmash or a melting pot of all the different creatures. I think she views Carnival Row as a place to find her feet again, but somewhere where she maybe not necessarily wants to be, I would say.
And I play Philo, who is a detective in the Burgish police. So he has an interesting perspective on all things human and fae. He's also a very sort of dark and slightly mysterious, explosive kind of a character. So I think he sees the Row as, and the plight of the fairish folk on the Row, as a calling and something that he has compassion and empathy towards.
All manner of creatures lived alongside us humans in relative peace. Until war changed everything.
Within the writing, we have something truly remarkable.
For me, playing Vignette, it was really about learning and thinking about her past and where she came from and learning all about her history. Even just knowing why she has this unquenchable fire inside her that just keeps going and keeps striving and keeps moving and keeps surviving throughout anything that's thrown against her.
If you have Lord of the Rings is like the beginning of a fantasy world. You know, the hobbits are in one place, the elves are in another. Hundreds of years later, what would it be like? It would be like this in Victorian time. You know what I mean? And you've got fairies and fauns and a whole mishmash of really fantastical creatures coming together. And then with man,
They brought me him. And just as quickly, they took him from me.
I think it's one of those loves where you always want the best for the person, but maybe you haven't necessarily left things off in the right way. There's always closure, I suppose.
the concept of a human and a fae coming together in our story, in our world, is kind of unusual and kind of frowned upon. Because we're in a fantasy world, we're able to really explore that in an interesting way. It's one of the things that I found so unique about the script when I first read it.
I vowed to protect those that couldn't protect themselves, whatever it took.